It's so nice to meet both of you. And I have to say, Instant Family is so hilarious, but it's also heartwarming, and you rarely get that in a comedy.
Thank you.
Sean, you directed and you co-wrote it.
Yep.
And I understand it comes from a personal place. Tell me what the inspiration was.
Yeah, it's inspired by my own story of adopting 3 kids out of the foster care system, but it's also inspired by a lot of other families that I met along the way and during the process, including Mairead's family, who was adopted out of foster care.
Mairead, tell me how you got involved with the film, because you worked on it as a consultant.
I did. I worked on it as a consultant. I met Sean a couple years ago. He adopted his kids through the same agency that I was adopted through, and so he ended up sending me the script, and I gave him some notes.
A lot of notes.
Especially on the Lizzie character, and then he called me one day and said that the movie's getting made, and he's flying me out to Atlanta, and so I went to Atlanta, and I worked on the set as a PA. It was really exciting.
Did you work with the kids? I heard that you were working with them and you gave them tips on how to do their characters.
Yeah, well, I kind of wrangled them on set. The 2 younger kids, or the youngest one, Juliana especially, she has a lot of energy, and so a lot of the times I was like under the table while we were filming to catch her as she ran by. But it was a lot of fun.
But she worked with Lizzie, with Isabella, who plays Lizzie, quite a bit, just on dealing with the emotions of the character along the way.
Yeah, there's this scene where Lizzie gives a speech to, well, she's almost telling them off, Mark and Rose's characters, and I just thought that was just such a great performance because it could have come off so bratty, but instead we end up liking her at the end. Yeah. How do you direct a scene like that so that it's so amazing?
Well, we've met a lot of these kids and a lot of these families, and that's sort of the point, that these kids are coming from a difficult situation and they've been let down by every adult they've ever met practically. So they are kind of within their rights to be distrustful and a little bit difficult because they don't believe that you're going to really be there for them. And that's what Pete and Ellie are trying to prove during the course of the movie.
Mairead, did you work with Mark Wahlberg and Rose Byrne and let them know, what it was like to be a foster child so that they could portray the parents of foster children?
I did. I was with them every day on set. Wow. I definitely talked to Rose a lot about the relationship that I had with my mom during the process of getting adopted, and Mark as well.
Mark Wahlberg is so hilarious in this movie. This is the 3rd time that you've directed him.
Yeah.
Is he that funny off screen as well?
No. No, he can be, but Mark is not. He's not a comic where he's goofing all the time between setups. He has, of course, those moments, and he is a really funny guy, but he's a very serious guy. Mark is very into his businesses, and he's a lot of times between setups he's working and making deals, and he's just one of those guys that's going all the time. But when he is funny, he's really funny, and he's really funny in the movie as well. But Mark himself would tell you he's a pretty serious guy a lot of the time. But I mean, a great guy, but he's just one of those guys that's just going all the time.
Now, he and Rose Byrne make such an adorable couple. At what point in the casting process did Rose come in, and when did you know that they were going to be so great together on screen?
We knew about 3 minutes into the very first scene that they were shooting. The very first day, we shot the scene where Rose is looking at the computer and pitching the idea of adopting kids to Mark. And we were about 3 minutes into the first take, and I could hear people in the crew whispering around me about how good they were together. So we knew right away.
Mairead, what did you like best about seeing the finished film?
I just like that there's now a film out that addresses foster care and adoption, but in a positive light, and it shows that the kids are more than just foster kids. They're just kids, and they're great kids, and they just needed a family to love them.
There's a scene in the film in which Mark Wahlberg first gets called Daddy. Did that come from your own experience? And which of your kids was it that first called you Daddy, and how did you feel?
Well, my first child that called me Daddy was my son Johnny, who asked pretty early on if he could call us Mom and Dad. And it was kind of so it happened for both of us at the same time in that moment. And he asked very matter-of-factly at the lunch table, would it be all right if I called you Mom and Dad? And my wife and I we were trying to be cool about it and go, yeah, we're all like, we're about to fall apart crying. And we're just like, sure, if you're comfortable with that, why don't
Marie, you're studying at UCLA. What is it that you're studying, and what would you like to do when you graduate?
I'm studying political science and film. I didn't know that I wanted to do film until I worked on this movie and then fell in love with the whole process, and so I can't wait until after I graduate and I can work on another movie.
She's got some good connections now, too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. As I was watching this, I was thinking, you probably wrote this screenplay 2 years ago or maybe more.
We started about 3 years ago.
I'm thinking in your life because your children are still young, as you're raising them, do you think what's happening right now? Like, do you have moments where you go, this would make a great sequel?
Well, what I keep saying is that I want this movie to have a really wide reach, because I feel like what the movie is going to do is what Mairead was touching on before, that it's going to shed a lot more positivity on the kids in the system, because I think the main reason why so many kids languish in the system and people don't step up for them is because of fear. Like, we're all afraid of what who these kids are and what they bring with them. So my hope is that the movie will take away some of that fear and lead to kids really finding permanent homes. So if the movie's a great big hit and that happens, then I would be thrilled if they called me and said we should do a sequel to this because it did so well.
I would love to see those characters on screen again.
Thank you.
And I hope it does really well, and that it does inspire people to want to go out and adopt older children.
Yeah, and if nothing else, I mean, look, most people aren't going to go out and do that, and we know that, but if nothing else, I hope that the movie makes people feel more positive toward these kids. So if someone in their family or someone they know wants to foster or get involved in that way, that they'll be more positive than people sometimes are.
Thank you so much for talking to me today, and thank you for this film. It was just incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you.